Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all well. Today I just wanted to sit down and have a little bit of a catch up, let you know what's been going on with me recently. If you follow me on social media, one of the last pictures I posted was a picture of me in the hospital with a cannula in my hand, so you'll know that I haven't been feeling too good. Don't worry, I'm not dying. I did have a life-threatening thing, which is really weird to think about, but I'm okay now. I'm still in and out of doctors, hospitals, clinics, literally every single day at the moment. It's a bit of a nightmare. I'm exhausted. I feel like I have no time, but I just wanted to sit down, do something that feels nice and normal, feel connected, and just update you on what's been going on, because I just posted that picture on Instagram and then kind of just left it. So here we go. So I'd been having all of these random little health issues for months, and they never really seemed like a big deal. They all seemed like things that would eventually go away by themselves and didn't seem very serious. But then it got to a point where I just had so many little things going on that it didn't seem right. I didn't feel right in myself. So I wrote everything down on an A4 piece of paper. I filled up the sheet and I just took that to my doctor and handed it over. So the first thing on my list was sleeping a bunch. I was sleeping around 14 hours every night, and then I would still need to nap during the day as well. I'd find myself falling asleep at my desk, or when I wake up, I'd do my skincare in my bathroom. I have like this little area in my bathroom where I have a little mat and then all of my skincare, and I usually just sit on the floor and do my skincare. But I was finding myself just waking up on the bathroom floor like 2 hours later. It was really weird. I love my sleep, but that seemed excessive. The second thing was my skin started acting up. It got very dry and very tight, and I could kind of feel it. I was aware of my skin when I was speaking and smiling and stuff. It felt very tight around my face. Then my spots started to take forever to heal, or like cuts on my body and stuff, and I'm now just covered in like these little scars everywhere because my skin would take forever to heal and then it would scar. Then eventually my skin started to look kind of loose. Even now when I push it, it wrinkles up more like older skin would. It doesn't really look like my skin did, and nothing had changed. I know when the weather gets colder, your skin can get tighter and dry and you need to change something with like your skincare routine most of the time, but nothing had changed. The weather hadn't changed, my skincare hadn't changed, my diet, so it didn't make any sense, and I couldn't work out what it was. The third thing was my vision. Back in December, January time, I noticed that my vision had got worse, and I've always had perfect eyesight. And now that I look back on it, it did happen quite suddenly, but I thought maybe I just hadn't noticed it because I work on screens. Everything I look at is really close, and it was my distance that was affected, so I thought maybe it's just something I hadn't noticed. This next thing is actually what made me realize something was off, and then I started being more aware of everything else that was going on as well. I started drinking 4 to 6 liters of liquid a day, which is far too much for most people, never mind a tiny little human like me who just sits at a desk all day and doesn't do any exercise. Far too much. Then of course, because I was drinking loads, naturally I was peeing loads as well, upwards of 20 times a day, to the point where it was painful. It was really starting to affect my life as well. I couldn't leave the house in fear that I would actually like pee myself. Amsterdam was really difficult. I went to Amsterdam with Marcia, and there were a couple of times where I literally thought, as an adult woman, I was gonna have to pee myself. I also had this issue with my mouth being super dry, which didn't make sense to me at the time because obviously I was drinking loads, so I should have been super hydrated, but I wasn't. Like, my mouth was super dry to the point where it was like hard to swallow, and like my lips would stick to my teeth when I spoke. In the morning, I would wake up with a really hard tongue, which I didn't even know could happen. The best way I can describe it is it felt like a piece of coral. It felt solid like the whole way through. It was really scary actually. The first time it happened, I didn't even think it was my tongue because it just felt like so alien, and I couldn't move it because it was so dry. Super weird. I've never experienced anything like that in my life, and I just put it down to hay fever. I don't know why. Since when does hay fever do that? But that's what I thought it was at the time. I was also getting these really serious leg cramps where it would wake me up in the night and they'd go on for like 3 to 5 minutes at a time in my calves. And they were just so painful. Like, I'm pretty good with pain. I can deal with cramp and stuff, it sucks, but I can deal with it. I've got tattoos and things. I don't mind a bit of pain. But this was so intense, and a few times it made like my eyes well up with tears because they were just crazy. Then finally the biggie was how much weight I'd lost and how quickly. Naturally I'm quite skinny anyway, so any difference you can really see it. And you could see my ribs all the way from the top, all the way down. My thighs and my butt, which is where all my weight goes, they'd gone. I could see it in my face too. I just didn't look like me with this and the skin thing. I just didn't look and feel like myself anymore. So I at this point I knew something was up and I really needed to go see someone about it. So I went to the doctors and they first tested my pee, then they sent me to get blood tests the next day, and then by the afternoon on the same day they'd already called me with my results and they wanted me to come in, and then they sent me off to hospital. Straight away people were taking tubes and tubes of my blood. They put cannulas in both hands. They had me hooked up to machines. I had 3 different bags of liquid going into me. And at this point I was by myself because I just left Brad at home because we just figured I was going in for more tests and stuff. But then they ended up keeping me for 4 days, 5 days. So it turned out I had something called ketoacidosis. And ketoacidosis can be life-threatening. It makes you very ill. And if I hadn't caught it when I had, the next step could have been a coma or death, which sounds really dramatic and I even feel silly saying it, but it's the thing I had. The whole time I was there, every new doctor I saw was telling me I was way more sick than I thought I was, and then I looked. Everyone was fussing over me, they wouldn't let me out of their sight. Even if I went to the toilet and took more than a few minutes, they'd be knocking on the door to see if I was okay. It was strange because I did feel like crap, but it seemed like such an overreaction, but I also know that it wasn't. There are a few reasons why you can get ketoacidosis, but for me, it turned out to be a consequence of untreated type 1 diabetes. I'm now diabetic out of nowhere. Type 1 diabetes is a lifelong condition. It's not caused by diet or lifestyle. They don't really know what causes it, and as of right now, it's incurable. I knew nothing about diabetes until a month or so ago, and since being diagnosed, I've also realized a lot of other people don't either. When you say diabetes, most people think of type 2. I feel like a lot of people have blamed me for it. A lot of people think it was because of my diet or drinking energy drinks. I saw someone wrote in Brad's Twitch chat, which could have been true. If I had type 2 can be caused by those things, but I don't have that one. So just in case you don't know what type 1 diabetes is, I don't want to sound condescending, but I mean, I didn't know either. Basically my body can't produce its own insulin anymore, and you need insulin to live. So your body runs on glucose, but for your body to be able to use that glucose or store it for use later on, it needs insulin to be able to do that. And if you can't do that, then your blood sugar is just going to keep rising. Your body's going to do the thing that mine was doing, where it started burning through the fat and the muscle, and then the bottom line is you die. So for months my blood sugar has just been rising and rising, and I was drinking all of these sugary drinks and eating all this crappy food, and it just makes me sick to think about all the damage I was doing without knowing. One way to imagine it is if a normal person's blood cells are cornflakes, mine were like Frosties, just covered in sugar. Now if you think about what happens when you put a sugar cube in water, it absorbs the liquid. That's what was happening to me, and and why I had actual dehydration for a few weeks. Let me read you this. I have a screen down here. The average adult with diabetic ketoacidosis has a total body water shortage of around 6 litres. 6 litres! In addition to substantial shortages in sodium, potassium, chloride, phosphate, magnesium, and calcium. Which explains why my skin was destroyed, why I had the weird tongue thing, and the cramps even is a dehydration thing. The more you know. As for the loss of vision, that was actually caused by the high blood sugar levels as well. It changes the shape of the lens of your eye, and I actually got my sight back after they sorted my levels out in the hospital. I could start seeing things at like the end of the ward, and it was amazing because I hadn't been able to see in the distance for ages. But then one of the side effects of starting on the insulin was losing my vision. This time it was intense. It was really scary. And because it was changing so fast, like daily, it happened overnight actually, they couldn't give me like any glasses or anything to deal with it because it was just changing too much. This is how I could see for about a week and a half. I couldn't read or see anything, so I couldn't distract myself with TV or games or even texting my friends. It was horrible. I just sat there and worried the whole time about it not being a temporary thing, especially because I've been learning about all of the complications of diabetes as well. Eye problems are very common in people with diabetes. Actually, the girl opposite me in the hospital had all of the complications of diabetes, and obviously I would prefer if she didn't have all of those things because it's horrible, but I think it was really good for me to see one of the worst case scenarios, you know, like right in front of me, because it's made me dedicate so much of my life to this now and making sure I stay on top of it and stuff, because it's not a bright future if you don't. Let me bring up a list. So complications include, like I said, eye problems, super common, straight up going blind. I actually saw someone have injections in their actual eyeball the other day. Heart issues, strokes, nerve damage, ulcers on your feet, which I didn't even know was a thing, but the woman in the hospital had foot issues as well, because circulation and nerve damage can be an issue. Kidney problems, liver issues, infection, because we heal slower. So it's serious stuff. It's not something to mess around with and not pay good attention to. I am going to try my absolute hardest to stay on top of things, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't educate themselves on it, and then all of these horrible things happen to them later in life, and it's really sad. So now I get to meet with a diabetes team every few months. I have my contact there who helps me with everything, answers all my questions, gives me advice. I also have a dietitian there as well, because obviously diabetes and food is very closely related. I'm going to have to get blood tests every 3 to 6 months, I believe. I get eye screenings. I actually have my first one really soon actually. Foot checks, nervous system checks, kidney function checks, all kinds of things. In a weird way, I feel like I'm probably going to be healthier because I have to stay on top of everything a lot more, but on the other side of things, if I didn't have medication, I'd also be dead. So swings and roundabouts, innit? So from now on, I'm going to have to control my insulin myself, which is a lot of responsibility. I'm like a part-time pancreas now. I'm injecting myself 4 times a day. I have my big injection in the morning, which is like my background insulin. It slowly releases all day, and so it like lasts around 24 hours. And then I inject myself every time I eat. So breakfast, lunch, dinner. And then if I snack, depending on the snack size, or if I have like supper or something, I'll also inject then as well. Lots of needles. It's a good job I'm not scared of them anymore, isn't it? You can also get pumps, which take on a lot of that responsibility for you, but I'm not into the idea of having something on me for like a few days at a time. I don't like cannulas and stuff, so we'll see. I'll just see how the injections go for now. I also have to test my blood glucose levels throughout the day, and I do that with a little stabbing machine that stabs one of my fingertips, and then a little machine sucks it up and then magically tells me what number I'm at. I do that before and after my meals, and anytime when I feel like I might be too low, because that can be bad as well. Hypoglycemia is, or a hypo, is when your blood sugar is too low as a side effect of having too much insulin or the balance not being right, which in itself can be fatal. Diabetes is hardcore. It's crazy. Anyone with diabetes, I applaud you for the shit you have to go through. And me, now I'm part of the club. Woo! While I was in the hospital, they actually tested my blood once every hour for the first 24 hours. I think it was a bit more than that, but definitely 24. Every hour they would come over, stab me in the finger. Even when I was asleep, they would wake me up every hour to jab me in the finger, and those hospital jabbers are so painful because they have to be able to break through anyone's skin, right? So they just have like a standard setting, which means for me, my tiny little soft fingers, it destroyed them. By the time I left, my skin was just black underneath my fingertips. It was horrible. They looked like strawberries with like all the holes and speckles in them. And my arms were destroyed as well because I had so many tubes of blood taken from me. All up here was the big black bruise. I had 14 needle holes in me by the time I left, and of course my cannulas as well. And they took over 30 tubes of blood. I literally counted until the 30th one, and I was like, this is ridiculous now. It was a wild time. So one last thing before I go, you're gonna think it's a joke because this many things couldn't possibly happen to a human all at the same time. Oh, I'm sorry, did you think life-threatening ketoacidosis, lifelong diabetes, dehydration was it? Oh no. I also had to get a lump removed from one of my boobs, literally a week after I came out of the hospital. So on top of having this full-time job I didn't want of diabetes and logging all my foods and preparing all the foods and eating the food, it feels like all I do at the moment is learn about food and nutrition, prepare the food, log the food so I can understand how foods affect me and my blood sugar and things. And then I do that 3 times a day, and it feels like I have no time for anything else. And on top of that, I'm having to go to the doctor or the hospital or the clinic every single day to get this dressing changed because it's crazy. They don't close it. I figured after they did it, did I tell you I was awake? I was awake when I had it done. It was the worst experience of my life, and it freaks me out to think about, so I'm gonna try not think about it while I'm talking about it. Let's pretend it happened to someone else. So I figured after they removed it, they would close up the wound, but that's not the case. They pack it so that it can heal from the inside out, and I had to have that changed every single day. It did get infected at one point, diabetes. So I've also been on pills, which I've had to take at very specific times of the day. Like, diabetes isn't difficult enough to time the food and stuff. I also had to have all of these antibiotics. So my body's also been fighting this infection, so I've been extra tired, and that's not even it. Brad also had an allergic reaction to something and went into anaphylactic shock, which is one of the scariest things I have ever seen. I've never seen anyone be in that kind of situation, never mind someone I love and care about, so that was terrifying. So I called an ambulance and they dealt with it. We still don't know what he's allergic to, because getting an allergy test here takes a really long time. So we're being super cautious about what Brad's eating. We're avoiding things we think it might be, whilst also trying to do the diabetes thing. And on top of that, Brad's dog was vomiting blood, so he's been going to the vets and stuff, and it's been a nightmare. We are all so tired. It's unbelievable how it's all hit at once, but I know it's gonna get easier. I'm staying positive. Look, like everyone I know is so confused how I'm so okay with everything. I'm not. It sucks. I know it all sucks, but what is the point complaining about it? I just have to deal with it. This is just my life now. So, yeah. I've had my cry, I've had my burst of anger, but I'm doing alright. But that's all from me today, I think, unless I've forgotten another horrific thing, but I think that's everything. Please leave me a comment letting me know what you're getting up to. I'm really looking forward to seeing some familiar faces in the comments and just feeling like I have a little bit of my life back on track. So let me know what you guys have been up to. As always, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. And I'll speak to you next time, whenever that might be. Bye.